the Water Management District Board meeting. We are also on YouTube and open to the public. And this is May 12th, 2026 at 9 a.m. We're calling this meeting to order. And if everyone would rise for invocation and pledge.
Father God, we thank you for this day. Father, we take a moment to just praise you for your grace and your mercy, and thank you for the rain. You know our needs, and you always supply. Father, I pray today for your guidance, your wisdom. I pray for pure hearts and clean hands as we approach the problems before us. Father, I pray for kindness in this world. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did everyone run into a little bit of liquid on the way here this morning?
Yes.
Wasn't it wonderful? I even loved hearing the frogs. I hadn't heard them in a long time. All right, we're going to go ahead and do roll call.
Mr. Johns,
Here.
Mr. Schwab, Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Sessions.
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Mr. Lloyd,
Here.
Mr. Wheeler.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Robin. Are there any amendments to our agenda?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. At this time, on our agenda, we have public comment. I've got quite a few public comment requests here. So we're going to establish a timer on our screen so that each person will have time to comment. We're going to limit our comments to 3 minutes per person. And if someone has already commented and has the same thing to say that you were going to, then you might want to just cut it short so that somebody else would have, some time to also come to the podium. Let's see, we're going to start with Larry Perry Sr. This gentleman has another appointment, so we're going to put him up here first. Good morning.
I've kind of been following this Water First on social media, and I don't know everything about it, but I don't know how many of the board members are aware of this, but it's my understanding that Water First is to replenish the aquifer, to help in that regards. Back 75 years ago, the state of Florida done a study on this, and they figured out how to raise the aquifer water and the springs and everything else. And they put a dam, well, they had the seal at the Okefenokee Swamp that held the swamp water in there until it got to a certain level. Then it would start flowing down the Swanee River. But then they come down behind the Florida Sheriff's Boys Ranch out here, and they put a dam across the Swanee River. And it made the river navigable from there up above White Springs, and it filled up all the aquifer, and it raised a level in all the water wells 18 to 20 feet. So they resolved the problem of the drought back then. And I don't know if y'all done any study as far as what the state done back then or not, or was aware of this dam being put up on the Swanee River. But, the talk out there is that the oceans are rising, but we keep letting this fresh water go into the ocean. I'm just saying that y'all might want to look at that. It might be a solution, because like I say, it's already been done and proven that it does raise the aquifer and the well levels and everything else. And I've got the articles on it if y'all don't have it or don't have access to it. But I don't have it with me now, but I do have access to it. And if y'all would like to hear more about it, just let me know. And you've got my name and phone number and address.
Thank you very much.
And that's
sir.
all I needed to say. Y'all have a great day.
All right, you too. Drive careful. Mr. Ray Hodge, did you want to comment now?
Morning. Ray Hodge, I'm a Swanee County resident, almost lifelong, and a seventh-generation Floridian. I drive my income for my family from the dairy farmers, so I'm here speaking on behalf of them, United Dairy Farmers of Florida. I just want to say thank you. I know there's some cost share projects on the tap. Y'all done that. I just want to say it's always been a pleasure working with y'all. We appreciate the public service that you provide. You're here with no pay, with no interest except that for everyone trying to work for solutions long-term, and I really, really appreciate that. I appreciate your staff. They are amazing, are approachable, and really have enjoyed working with it on long-term planning. I do want to say that I know there's a lot of issues. I know we have some public here that's going to talk about it. I just hope that as we go forward with anything in the future, that we all learn to be nicer, less disagreeable, be open to learn, open to trust. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't have passion for something, but approach people in a way that you would like to be approached. And I think we could come up with better solutions. So if there's anything learned from this whole process, is that dialogue and openness and being cordial is the best way. So we will do our part in that effort and continue to work. But overall, I just want to say thank you for everything you do, the public service that you provide to all of us, and we look forward to continued support. Thank you, Chairman.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see, Susan Cordero.
My name is Susan Cordero. I'm a veteran here in Swanee County. I just want to say that I'm not a climate activist. I believe that there are 4 seasons, and the Florida aquifer needs recharging. However, drought in this area happens this way about every 12 years. The salinization of the water and the soil due to the imbalance of recharge is perilous to all water sources. There are approximately 24.3 million people and counting that depend upon the Florida aquifer in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, and South Carolina. Designs and projects are being implemented where transparency is not always a goal. Some of these involve NDAs, redacted contracts, and subversive techniques that are being used by companies to get their deals, which the people of this community should and will not stand for. Conservation projects in states and local communities are in jeopardy. Governor DeSantis has ensured local leaders can stop these projects from happening by allowing us to set up our own regulations, ordinances, and restrictions. We need to get these in place along with checklists before dangerous projects to our communities can be implemented. Communities that accept projects like JEA and data centers need to have their conservation and protected species projects defunded, since these companies would destroy them anyway. It's a waste of funds. Instead of wasting these funds, use them towards desalinization projects. There are currently over 100 data centers in Florida, like the one at Fort Meade and Polk County, where there are 2 species that are in danger. They are literally the only species of these 2 in the world. That is the Florida scrub jay and the Florida blushing scrub bomb. And Polk County just brought in the Fort Meade data center there. So the Florida scrub jay being the only species there, it doesn't make any sense to waste money to try to protect a species that they have now put in danger by bringing in data centers that are going to affect their environment. Companies consume millions of dollars of water a day that affect the aquifer and have been for years. Florida is no stranger to drought. The difference now is the influx of people and businesses like data centers to Florida. We do not want data centers here, but there are hundreds of them popping up all over the place, which is causing havoc, like the one in Fayette County, Georgia, where the QTC data center that was hooking up to the
Ms.
water
Cordero?
system there
Your 3 minutes is up, but if you have information that you'd like to put on the record, you can leave
I'd
it
like to
with
submit this.
our
Okay.
staff.
All right,
And I
thank you.
appreciate you coming today. Okay, I want to remind everyone that we've got a 3-minute limit on comments. So I've got quite a few cards here, so please respect that time. And I'm going to go ahead and start. Most of all of these are on the North Florida Water Project. So the first one is Steve Fontana.
Hello, my name is Steve Fontana. I live at 21181 144th Street, Live Oak, Florida. And I am also a member of American Patriots of North Florida. The American Patriots of North Florida has taken a position that we are against the North Florida Water Project. That project, basically the project that will put Jacksonville wastewater into our aquifer. And couple of the main reasons myself I'm against it is because it does also include industrial waste, which is very difficult to get those chemicals out and things. And there isn't any information on as far as, are you going to distill it? What are you exactly going to do to it? And the other one is the pharmaceuticals. People take pharmaceuticals, people take, whether it's the birth control pills, things like that, all those chemicals come right through us and go right down and into wastewater. So that would end up in our aquifer. We'll end up drinking it. It'll end up getting into, whether if you're a dairy farmer or something like that, it'll get into the milk. It's just bad news. So there's other things like the gentleman earlier had spoken about. There's known ways to replenish the aquifer. There's other things that Jacksonville can do with their water. I think we should preserve, because once you get those chemicals and the pharmaceuticals into our water, how are you going to get it out? Okay? My wife and I have already invested a few $100s into a water filtration system for ourselves, just in anticipation. But people shouldn't have to do that. People shouldn't have to invest either hundreds or even thousands of dollars to purify their own water so they can be healthy. Okay, so we need to think about that. We need to preserve our, everybody should agree upon clean water and clean air. I'm not an environmental activist. I don't believe in climate change and all that stuff. But but as far as this is concerned, we need clean water. Okay, if we care about our kids, we will say no to this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Today, this is not an item on our agenda, so we won't be commenting. We're just taking comments in for the record, so we won't be addressing questions today. Byron Lowry?
Good afternoon, folks. Thank you, folks, for being here. Appreciate all the work you're doing. It's an outstanding job. Not an easy one, I'm sure, particularly with the type of things that we're being addressed with these days. I've spoken before one other time before you folks, and you may remember the fact that I'm a veteran of the Nuclear Submarine Navy. I've spent my whole life involved in nuclear submarines in one aspect or another. Very blessed to have had that opportunity. But I was born and raised in Key West in particular. And being from Key West, as I mentioned previously, I've seen the destruction of the Florida Keys against all efforts to try to preserve certain aspects of it. But one of the things I'm an advocate of is water desalination. Saltwater desalination is one of the premier ways, as Key West has experienced, versus a pipeline being having water brought in from Miami. But ultimately, the first gentleman who spoke, and I live nearby the Florida Sheriff's Youth Ranch, and the damming is in the Okefenokee Swamp is an outstanding idea. It's something that has a potential to be, governed. We can govern the water that way. And if it has any absolute possibility of bringing our aquifers back up to par to where they need to be, I'm a big advocate of that. I won't spend any more of my time doing this, but I plead with you, as I know you're already doing, You're looking at all aspects of this whole project, and there's so many variables, as has previously been mentioned. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but the chemicals is an issue because when I go fishing down in the Gulf, there's already redfish that we're catching that have pharmaceuticals in the fish, and that's obviously a byproduct of human waste. So let's consider my children, my grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren. I love Florida. I want to preserve and protect it any way we can. Let's all be mindful of that. It's a beautiful part of the state and needs to be preserved because look what's coming north, steadily marching our way. Okay? Thank you, folks.
Thank you, sir. Cat Cheever? Cat? Good morning.
I also wanted to address the North Florida project with the Jacksonville wastewater. I don't believe it's a good idea. I've seen things go wrong with sewage treatment in other counties. And I haven't been here real long, but I'm a true Floridian, I've been here all my life. And I just don't think it's a good idea. I mean, I've just heard a couple of other ideas, and I'm just asking if you all will really look into this Jacksonville thing before you go that route. It's so beautiful here, and the wells are already drying up, so I understand there's got to be something maybe to remedy some of that. But bringing another city's wastewater here, I think is just going to be devastation. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Tobias? Tobias.
Good morning, good morning. My name is Frank Tobias. My family's been in Florida since 100 years before it was a state. And so I feel like I have some history here. Hang on, let me pull that up. I have a few notes. I am here to talk about how I am against the North Florida Water First, however they say it. I don't believe that we should be shipping the water over here. There are a lot of other opportunities that we can have. I am a regenerative farmer. My farm is just south, down close to McAlpin. And what I do is I farm regeneratively. Now, that is a catchphrase right now. People don't really know exactly what it means. If you want to take some time, I will explain it to every one of you in here. All 6 principles of what it takes to be a regenerative farmer. Side effects are clean water, replenishment of the aquifer. Those are side effects. Right now, the aquifer flows historically at about 4.75 billion gallons a day. We pull out 3.2 billion gallons a day. It doesn't take a lot of understanding to see we're pulling more water out than we should be collectively. Saying, oh, let's put 40 million back in isn't a solution. That's a drop in the bucket compared to what's really happening. Jacksonville pulls a lot of water. We had a man here from the dairy industry. The dairies pull a lot of water. The crops growing here pull a lot of water. They're not growing food. They're growing corn and soy for other purposes. We also have the bottle industry. Water bottle industry pulls a lot. There's no restrictions on any of this. You could start by putting some limits on what's being pulled out. Now, I talk to some people and they say, oh, there's limits. Well, if they're pulling that much water, maybe the limits need to be lower. The next thing is the PFAS, the chemicals coming in that water, are a big problem. Forever Chemicals. Now, I know this project is all excited about the bacteria that was discovered only 2 or 3 years ago, sometime in 23. They discovered that this bacteria breaks down the forever chemicals, and they're excited. Well, I spoke with the scientist that is part of this project out of Tallahassee. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. And he explained to me, well, it looks promising, but we don't really know yet. The science isn't there. We're going to run it through these wetland areas, and that bacteria is going to magically clean it up. We hope. That's where this project's decisions are being made. I think we're too quick on this. I think there are better options. Regenerative farming is the only option. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Jeremy Bernal.
Hello, I'm here to speak up against the Water First project. I'm also a regenerative farmer here in Live Oak. If this water was so safe and so great, why do they have to spend millions of dollars building a pipeline to ship it 100 miles away and dump it in our labs? Additionally, PFAs are a thing. They end up in the water because they're from waste products from humans. They take forever to degrade. They stay in the soil, like, they call them forever chemicals for a reason. Once they're in, you can't get them out. There's a video on YouTube, and you should all watch it. It's about a dairy farmer who treats his fields once with human sludge. And the level of PFAs from that one treatment were enough to make it so toxic that just from his cows eating the grass that grew in those fields, the milk that they made was so toxic that he could no longer sell it. That land is forever tainted. He can't make a living, hundreds and hundreds of acres gone from one treatment of human sludge. It's out there, just watch it, look it up, it's easy to find. That's the kind of thing, you're gonna take valuable Florida wetlands and wreck it with these chemicals. You shouldn't do that, it's bad, I came here for the clean water. We have a well, no filter. The water is beautiful and perfect. It's been there 100 years, no problems. And, we make food, meats, clean stuff for people with autoimmune diseases, autism, all that kind of stuff that can't eat the kind of crap that comes off the grocery store shelves. They rely on us for clean food. How can we guarantee that it's gonna be clean if we have, human waste in our water? So that's really all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming. Lauren Jorgensen?
Good morning, board members. Thank you for letting us comment today. We all appreciate that. My name is Lauren Jorgensen. I'm a local farmer here in Suwannee County. Like my husband, my family goes back many generations in Florida. My grandmother was a farmer in Chattahoochee, and I always add on the outside. But we're here, and I'm here to talk to you about this project, Water First. Before I became a farmer, I like to say I traded up. I was a trial lawyer for about 34 years, including 30 years as a federal prosecutor. And never once did I ever decide a case or advocate or take action on a case without having my facts. You all don't have the facts. That's the problem. We talked to the scientist who says there are no guarantees. They have not proven that the sewage water coming out of Jacksonville can be properly cleaned to come into our Suwannee River Basin. So we need to, I would just ask you a couple of things. Take a step back. Look at what are some other things you can be doing to ensure your mission is water quality in the Suwannee River Basin, right? Your mission has nothing to do with Jacksonville's sewage problems. That's their problem. So what we need to do with this aquifer is take a look at, I saw somewhere that 100 other opportunities were discussed, but the public hasn't heard about those other opportunities to solve our flow problem, right? The flow of the water. We have too much outflow and not enough inflow into our springs and our rivers, right? Is that right? I mean, am I right about that? Isn't that the mission that you all have, right? So regenerative farming is one of the things. Now, I'm the third one who's going to talk to you about that. And I passed out a thing. I'm speaking on my own behalf, not on behalf of the Florida Soil Health Coalition, but I will tell you, the keys can be, that one of the keys, I'm not going to say all of them, one of the keys can be found in helping farmers pump less water out of the ground. Fewer than the millions and millions of gallons that we have. And that is by rebuilding our soil health. We have lost topsoil. And by the way, quality, water quality. When we're feeding chemical and synthetic fertilizers and pesticides into our ag land, and believe me, I'm a farmer. I am on the side of the farmers. We have better ways. We can help our farmers. With $1 billion, can you imagine how much improvement we could make on the farms that are sucking out billions of gallons of water here? So let's workshop it. Why don't y'all have a workshop, invite the public, invite all the experts, and let's look at all the opportunities that we have to help our flow. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff McGilliard? Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Lisa Keep?
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to comment again this month. I hope to hear that you have changed directions regarding Water First North Florida. We need a permanent solution to too many people drawing too much water from a limited supply. As I mentioned last month, the St. Johns River Water Management District said in 2009 that desalination was inevitable. And I don't think we should let even one more decade pass without moving forward on desalination. It's clearly feasible, or other localities would not be operating and building plants. So any obstacle that may be there can certainly be overcome. Our elected representatives in the whole region have all expressed the desire of their and your constituents to stop the Water First North Florida project. You may think that districts and board members have expertise that citizens do not, but I would point out that you have heard from citizens who are geologists, engineers, physicians, as I am, attorneys, and others. But even still, I would also like to point out that our form of American government is based on rule by citizens through our elected representatives and not rule by experts. So I implore you to reconsider your support for the Water First North Florida project.
Thank you, ma'am. Moses?
Yes, ma'am. I probably not gonna say a whole lot different. I admired folks spoke before me. The starting off with that first fella, I'd love to learn that that's already been considered, and it hasn't been because we're considering this ridiculous Water First North Florida. Also, word has it that legislature shut this down. If y'all are aware of that, y'all could just tell us right now, and we'll hush on it. We've sent in y'all, I know personally, I've sent in solutions. I've done research, and I've sent in excellent solutions compared to this poisoning our water. Ultimately, the plan is to poison our water. Water First North Florida is to poison our water. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's from the first announcement y'all made, this organization has made till now. No one will deny it. Y'all admitted it at first, y'all backed up off of it, not y'all. And actually, I said the 30 pieces of silver because I've never been here before. I knew somebody was taking it. I suspected. I wish I had proof of it. I recommend once this is officially shut down, y'all open an investigation. Those that have been on the forefront of pushing this thing, and I apologize to the dairy farmer that wants to be all fuzzy. I don't know how to operate that way. You know, I ain't got time for it. I got 3 minutes. So it'd be nice if we could be all warm and fuzzy and just love everybody and all that and not poison our water. But y'all want to y'all not. I believe you're getting advice from 3 that I would fire today. All right, regardless of what happens this Water First North Florida. And Amy Brown, Troy Roberts, and Hugh Thomas needs to go, along with Mr. Register. Sorry, that ain't warm and fuzzy. They're all for poisoning our water. Even they can't believe in it. He can't. She can't.
You just,
I get to say my 3 minutes, ma'am.
yes, you do.
Any way I want to, and I'm not using vulgarity. You can't interrupt me.
I
I
can.
want to reclaim my time. I told you you don't want me here. Shut down the daggum Water First North
Talk
Florida.
about the water first, but you cannot be ugly.
I can be anything I want. I got a constitutional right. We can go down that trail too, ma'am. I have tried to be respectful. You've wasted my time, so I want to finish some of what I got to say. One thing, warm and fuzzy, I like that this, you mess with our taxes, you mess with our water, people unite and show up. I'm allied with daggum liberals today, all right? I know there's something wrong. All right, just that fact. That I'm standing side by side with a bunch of liberals trying to fight this daggum poisoning of our water. So if that don't tell you something,
Don't trust the science, like Ms. Keep just said. The people, we the people, all right? We're the ones that's supposed to decide what happens in our country and in this state and in this county and in this basin. Y'all know, every one of y'all know, I've come to believe, y'all know this is a bad
You've already
idea.
had extra time. I've been giving you some extra time. So if you'd have any information you'd like to turn in to have on the record, if you would please give it to Robin.
I do believe I've sent in everything I could send in.
Okay, thank you. No clapping. If you do that, then we're going to ask you to leave. Let's see here. Teresa Vale?
Thank you for allowing us to give us our comments. I'll make this short and sweet because I know you've heard it all before. I'm against this pipeline, which will screw up our aquifer. Let Jacksonville build a desalination plant or figure something else out. It seems that they have the funds to update their football stadium for $775 million taxpayer dollars. Why should our children and grandchildren suffer with their waste? I've only been here a short time, but apparently we already have an issue with overflow sewage from the South Georgia aquifer. Seems like this pipeline would only compound this problem. I'm tired of these big companies and corporations messing with our water and environment with these cockamamie plans, and now we have proposed data centers to fight also. Also, they can make a buck and do whatever is convenient and cheaper for them, the rest of us be damned. Maybe instead of bowing to Jacksonville, we should do what we can to further help the farmers. They are the true heroes in this country, and it seems like they always get the short end of the stick. Thank you.
Thank you, and we do love our farmers. Okay, let's see here. John Quarterman? Good morning, John.
Good morning. I'm fond of saying if I show up on time, nobody recognizes me, but you always do, so thank you. About the Swanee River sill, I was last there a few weeks ago, and many times I have paddled through the sill because actually the gates have been open since 2001 because it failed in its original purpose of keeping the water level up in the Okefenokee Swamp. And of course, actually, it turns out that you got to have low water levels at some point for the trees to regenerate. So there's a prevalent myth in Florida I keep hearing that when it rains real hard, Georgia opens the dam and floods Florida. Sorry, no, the gates have been open since 2001. Anyway, about those options instead of Water First North Florida, according to one document, there were 800 options. When I asked the district, I sent in a public records request, they said we were not the custodian and we don't know. I sent a similar request to the St. John's district. I've heard nothing. I think it's going on 2 weeks now. So I hope somebody knows what those 800 options were. I think the public would like to know. Meanwhile, back on March 3rd, the Senate Rules Committee met and considered Senate Bill 7034, which Senator Jennifer Bradley repeatedly said was the ratification bill for the minimum flows and levels in the associated projects, including Water First North Florida, which your executive director had discussed at some length during that meeting. She also said that it was critical to approve this ratification bill and that they would be watching to be sure that all the projects, principal one being Water First North Florida, met the highest standards of safety and water quality. The Senate Rules Committee passed 72-0 that bill, but it never appeared on the Senate floor for a vote. So what happened? The previous week, on February 25th, it got moved into HB 1417, which did come to a vote on March 9th. Senator Bradley voted against it, as did Senator Corey Simon and one other senator. Now, I have to wonder, did she decide in that week that Water First North Florida does not meet the highest standards of safety and water quality? I think you'll find there are a large number of people who don't think it does. And last month, I reminded you that a number of counties and City of Branford had passed resolutions against it. Add to that Lafayette County. And as you know, all 12 counties participated in the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council vote for a resolution against it. I hope you all will consider all this political and public opposition to this unfortunate project. Thank you.
Okay, let's see here. Felicia Lamb. Hi.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Yes, ma'am.
The GPS took me past the busy bee, and I didn't get here quite in time.
No.
I don't know what it was doing. But I'm here to talk briefly about an issue that's currently impacting me and will likely impact me and others in the future. In 2020, an industrial agricultural facility started operation next to farmland my family has owned and operated for generations. From the start, their operation discharged water onto our property and this has continued almost without interruption ever since. Erosion can clearly be seen from before they became operational to now, and you can see that there was none before, and now there's massive. In fact, that brings me to, I did bring the 11 copies of, it's just 3 pages.
Okay.
Okay, so that will show you the erosion, the satellite images, and what it is currently, how massive it is. The flooding is also significant, and it frequently results in roads being flooded, so I can't get from one side to the other of the property. Our neighbor has stated that their discharge is stormwater, but laboratory analysis indicates high levels of nutrients that are inconsistent with stormwater. Flow measurements, we have a flume, over the last few months of drought indicate about 25 gallons per minute average runoff without rain. So although your staff is working on our complaint, I feel like this is something that deserves the board's attention at a policy level. And that's all.
Thank you.
What do I do?
Yes, if you give that to Robin, and she can get one for the record and then pass the rest out.
I appreciate it. Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you for coming. Okay, that is our last card. So at this point, we will close public comment and move on to our agenda. We have a consent agenda, if everyone has had a chance to study up, and is there a motion?
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Hydraulic conditions. Did you manage to get a little moisture in the air?
Yes, Madam Chair, I did a little bit of a rain dance before I came today, so we got a little bit of rain. So
That's
it's really good to see, for sure. I'm very, very happy to see this. Keep it up, Rob. I will try my best, yes, sir. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'd like to present the hydrologic conditions report for April 2026. My thanks this month goes out to Paul Buchanan. He sent me a trove of just really good low water photos. He was out at the Withlacoochee River, kind of the south part of the Withlacoochee, near Twin River State Forest, and he snapped this photo where you can actually see a lot of the exposed limestone out here and some of the rushing water. It's really kind of indicative or representative of what we're seeing right now among all of our rivers in the district with this ongoing drought. So I thought it was a great way to start our hydro report. I'd like to thank Paul again for sending me all these great photos, and we'll go ahead and proceed with the hydro report for April 2026. Right, rainfall for April 2026, we didn't even break an inch. We got 0.9 or 9/10 of an inch of district-wide average rainfall for the month. That represents about 74% less than that long-term average of 3.4 inches. We did increase our deficit slightly. We went from just under 20 inches at the end of March, when it was 19.98, and we're now over 20.2 inches of rainfall deficit. And that's due to moving that window of time forward. We lost 1.1 inches from April of 2025 and only picked up this 9/10 of an inch here. Taking a look at the map, the half an inch to 1 inch range does encompass that district-wide average for the month. We did have quite a few areas of less than half an inch. Saw a lot of that kind of in our coastal areas of Jefferson and Taylor, even kind of into the interior here, but mostly in the eastern part of our district, we saw that less than half an inch. On the flip side of that, higher than average amounts, we had 1 to 1.5 inch in green, 1.5 to 2 inches in orange, 2 to 2.5 inches in red, and we did have some areas that actually showed more than 2.5 inches this month, so they got lucky with the rainfall. Areas including Taylor County, Hamilton County got quite a bit, Columbia got quite a bit, just a little bit in Suwannee, Dixie County, Gilchrist County, and then even over into Union, all showing more than 2.5 inches in that pink color. Our biggest rain event for the month came in a single day. It was April 3rd. We had a little frontal system come through. We got roughly 50% of our rainfall for the month in this one day. We got 0.4 of an inch on April 3rd. Looking at this map, the less than 1/4 of an inch, we had a lot of areas that got no rain. Most of the rain was kind of concentrated up here in the north and even down into the central and southern parts of the district, kind of forming a little bit of a T here. A lot of the outskirts of the district got no rain, and once again pointing out to the eastern part of our district, not really getting much of anything on this day. But some areas were lucky, got more than an inch and 1/4 here in the pink color. A lot of, once again, a lot of the areas up in the north, Columbia County got quite a bit, Suwannee County, and then down into Alachua, Dixie, and Gilchrist as well. This is our departure from normal precipitation. This is from April 11th through May 10th. We've got quite a few different looks to the district. We've got some areas of breaking even to 3/4 of an inch of rainfall deficit. Kind of see that in the central part of the district, even going over to the east. We've got some areas of light orange, which is 3/4 of an inch deficit to 1.5 inches of rainfall deficit, kind of in this little swirl here over to the south and then kind of over into the east. The darker orange color, as we head south in the district here, we got 1.5 inches to 2.25 inches of rainfall deficit. And then there's an area of Levy County down here showing 2.25 inches of rainfall deficit to 3 inches of rainfall deficit. And as we look over to the west, they have gotten a little bit more rain over here, especially in the Panhandle. You can kind of see these surpluses. But Jefferson County, and then even over just into a little bit of western Madison County, showing anywhere from breaking even to about 3/4 of an inch of rainfall surplus. So that's a good sign for at least the western part of our district. This is our comparison of district-wide monthly rainfall. I showed this last month. I wanted to show this again just to kind of take home where we are. The April 2025, as I mentioned, we had 1.1 inches of rainfall average for the district. April 2026, we only had that 9/10 of an inch of rainfall for the average of the district. And then looking back at May of 2025, that was the only time in this 13-month window that we actually did see an average or better condition for the district on this timeline. We made it through June all the way to September, kind of our wetter months here, had lower than average rainfall. Of course, the average is that dashed line there. All the way to November, where that was the second lowest on record. April of 2026 is actually the 5th lowest April on record, and you can kind of see how far away we were actually from that average as well. Streamflow conditions for April 2026, really to be expected. This is, with the ongoing drought here, a lot of our rivers were in the much below normal, that less than 10th percentile to begin and end the month of April, with the exception of the Finn-Holloway kind of keeping steady in the below normal, that 10th to 25th percentile. This month I did add a new category. We had three river gauges in our district and one outside our district that we report on that actually had zero flow. They had no flow by the end of April, on April 30th. And those include gauges in the Santa Fe, so the New River, and then we've had Worthington Springs and Graham on the Santa Fe River proper, and then also up into the North Prong at St. Mary's. We're all at zero flow by April 30th. Upper Florida and aquifer levels, this is for March 2026. I wanted to show this to compare with April, but what we were starting to see in March was a little bit of an explosion of that 10th to 25th percentile, that orange color throughout the map. We did still have some wells in that 25th to 75th percentile, which is considered the normal range for well levels. And then we had 19 wells across the district that showed below 10th percentile. Those include wells over in Taylor County, Madison County, Suwannee County, Dixie, Gilchrist, up into Columbia, Union, and just outside our district in Alachua and down into Levy as well. Fast forward 1 month, we really see that increase in the below 10th percentile. We're up to now 41 wells that are less than below 10th percentile. And of those 41, 18 are now below the 5th percentile. So we're getting really low on a lot of our long-term wells here. We do still see a lot of the 10th to 25th percentile throughout the district, that orange color as well. And then you'll notice not quite as extensive of areas or pockets of 25th to 75th percentile like we saw in the previous month. Do still have some wells in Taylor County, Suwannee County, Columbia, and Alachua that are still showing normal ranges at this point in time. So keep this in mind here, this graphic in mind. I'm going to go ahead and show you where we were this time last year. This was April of 2025. We had just gotten a nice little rain from March of 2025. That's where we hit that average amount from that previous graphic that I showed. But we were showing a lot of the normal ranges here. We had some 75th to 90th and above 90th percentile, so no red or orange colors on here at all. We were around the 67th percentile here at this point in time for April 2025. It's just kind of amazing to see how we've changed in just a year for groundwater. District-wide upper Florida and aquifer conditions. This is the percentiles. I'll go ahead and forward to this. Doesn't seem to be working for me. I think it's frozen. Tyler, I think I'm frozen. Yeah, it won't advance. I can see my arrow at the bottom. It's trying to come up. It's not working. Technology. Okay, we'll try this again. All right. So this was our upper Florida and aquifer conditions. We are currently here. As of this past Saturday, we're at 10.2%. And then that's well below where we were back in 2017. June 4th, we were at 27.2%. This was right before Hurricane Irma came through our district, but this was the last time that we were seeing any dry conditions at this point in time. But we're still well above where we were back in 2012. May of 2012, we were down to the 1%. And then back in June of 2002, we were down to the 2%. So we're still hanging in above those last two historic dry times. I wanted to show the next couple slides, a couple long-term wells. The first one is the DOT Lake City well. The blue color is actually the telemetry data or the continuous data that we have, and then the black dots are the manual measurements that are made out here. But the period of record low that we have for this DOT in Lake City well came on the 25th of May, 2012, and we were right at 40 feet. Currently, we're sitting about 44.7 feet, so we're about 4.5, just a little bit higher than that, feet higher than we were on the all-time low. We're actually higher now than we were back in the early 2000s when we had the drought, the late 80s, early 90s, and we're almost about where we were back in the 50s when we had the drier times there in that Lake City well. Another well to take a look at, USGS Newberry. Once again, this one, the continuous data is in blue. The black is the manual measurements here. Period of record low here came on the 22nd of June in 2012. It was 33.6 feet roughly at this well. We are currently 37.7 feet as of this past, yesterday actually. So we're still well above where we were here at the period record low, and then also that 2001, 2002 timeframe, and pretty much about where we were in the 50s and early 60s at this well as well. U.S. Drought Monitor, this was released last Thursday, May 7th. Really, this is one of the worst droughts that they've seen, if not the worst drought they've seen since the U.S. Drought Monitor was conceived back in 2000. We are seeing large areas, especially mostly in our district, of the exceptional drought, the D4. But as we go east and then south, we do have some of the counties split by showing extreme drought. I know this rain does help, and it is really nice to get, but if we continue on with the drier pattern and not collecting a little bit more excess rain, then we're going to see that exceptional drought extend to the east within the next few updates. All right, let's talk a little bit about climate. This is El Nino Southern Oscillation Probabilities. This was released last month, but it bears repeating. We are currently here in the April, May, June timeframe. We're about 80% chance of continuing on with what's known as El Nino Southern Oscillation neutral conditions. But as of a couple months from now, possibly within the near future, we got about a 61% chance from May through July of hitting an El Nino, which is good for us in this area because El Ninos typically mean a little bit more moisture, and it does help with impeding hurricane developments as well. There is talk that this is potentially going to be what's known as a super El Nino, which could be a stronger signal seen in our area. So we potentially could see higher amounts of rainfall, possibly in the future. But this is going to continue. This El Nino will continue to at least the end of 2026, possibly even into 2027. With that said, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration's seasonal outlook for May through July does have us leaning above, probably about a 40 to 50% chance in our area of higher than normal rainfall for the next 3 months. And then also, we've got about a 40 to 50% chance in our area of above normal temperatures for May through July as well. All right, our April 2026 summary, we had a rainfall amount of about 9/10 of an inch, which was 74% lower than that long-term average of 3.4 inches. We did increase our deficit slightly. We went from just under 20 inches at 19.98 at the end of March to an April deficit of 20.2 inches, just simply moving that window of time forward and not picking up the same amount of rainfall that we lost in the calculation. District-wide upper Florida and aquifer levels did fall from the 17th percentile to the 12th percentile at the end of April. We did have a median level decrease of about 0.6 of a foot across our monitored wells. And as of this past Saturday, May 9th, we do have groundwater at the 10th percentile, so we've fallen about an additional 2% since the end of April. As I mentioned, El Nino Southern Oscillation neutral conditions are currently present. They're favored through April to June at about an 80% chance. And then we are going to switch over into an El Nino that's favored to emerge sometime between May and July with about a 61% chance. That's probably going to be a really strong signal, and then that's going to persist through at least the end of 2026, possibly into 2027. And finally, as of this last update for the U.S. Drought Monitor, majority of the district is covered by exceptional drought. We do have some areas to the south and east that are with extreme drought, but as I mentioned, if we continue with this drying pattern, I look for that exceptional drought to creep over on the east on that map as well. With that, Madam Chair, I'll take any questions that the board may have.
Any questions, guys?
Just one point. When we were going through this, we showed the western part with much more moisture than us, but yet they're still in the exceptional drought. So does that say how much water it's going to take to remove the exceptional?
Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
So this is as of last week. So when they come out with the U.S. Drought Monitor, that goes through Tuesday at I think 2 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. There's a cutoff time that they do each week when they put these drought monitors out. I have not seen the new one this week if they're going to consider taking some of this out or a category improvement. I'm not sure if they're doing that yet, but I could see that as we saw for these last 30 days here. Let's go back to that slide. As we saw here, we've got, some of these areas, especially over in the Panhandle, they're seeing upwards of almost 3.75 of an inch of rainfall surplus. I could see a potential for them to downgrade it to probably extreme drought instead of exceptional drought. That is always possible.
It seemed to conflict when I was looking at it.
I agree, and that's the unfortunate thing is, I'm a week behind when I present this because it doesn't come out till each Thursday. So I'm presenting what was done last week. So if we do get some rain within that time period, it's not really covered in here. So I understand that.
Madam Chair. So the aquifer level dropped 0.7% from this time last month, right?
Madam Chair? It actually dropped 2%. The end of April, it was 12%, and we're now down to the 10th.
But it was at 17 last month, was that correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay. So from, I don't know what the reporting times were, we may be 9 or 10 days into this month, and that's where the 10th percentile is. Hopefully we're going to get inches of rain, and this is going to be a moot point, but if we don't get an average amount of rainfall, in other words, if we go into another deficit, is it fair to assume that number could drop another 5% in a month?
Yes, but especially since we're coming up on, I guess, the growing season and if folks start irrigating, things like that, we'll probably see some more drops in the wells. That is possible. We could see it get a little bit lower for sure.
Back in 2012, the low water mark was like in June, wasn't it?
Yes, sir, I believe so. Let's get back to that graphic. Yes, sir. It was June
That was
4th, 2017.
Right.
And that was just before Irma came through. I think Irma was a little bit later that year, but we had gotten some rain up in here, and then I believe Irma came in and staged us just up above the 70th percentile, I believe it was.
Right. But we were already, I guess, I'm just looking at that, that's a whole year there in that block, but we were already considerably lower at that point in time as we are now. Is that fair to say as well? In other
Yes.
words, we're at 10%, we were already below 10 in March, or I mean, not March, May
Of 2012 or 2002?
2012.
So, yeah, 2012, yes, that's correct. Yeah, we were, at the beginning of the year in 2012, we were here. So probably 5%, maybe 6%. So, yes, sir, we were definitely lower at that point in time.
So we went through a growing season then as well. And don't know how much rain we got in those months, but, okay, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Hey, keep
Thank
it
you, Madam Chair.
coming, keep our rain coming.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
can we take a break?
yes, we sure can. 10-minute break? Will resume. And we are on cooperating agencies. Hugh, do we have cooperating agencies to recognize today? Okay. And we have a service recognition.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Kelly Woolley. I serve as the Human Resources Manager. This time, I'd like to present service recognition for the month of May 2026. Congratulations to Jonathan Crane for 5 years of service. Jonathan interned for the Resource Management Division back in 2019, then began his career as project manager in the Agricultural Cost Share Program in May of 2021. In this capacity, he enjoys helping local ag producers implement best management practices that enhance operational efficiency and environmental stewardship while minimizing financial burden. Outside of work, Jonathan enjoys spending time with his family, racing cars, and enjoying the outdoors. Thank you, Jonathan, for 5 years of service.
Thank you for taking care of our farmers. All righty, let's see here. Tom, do you have anything for us today?
I do. As you all will recall, we've had, I started working with the district in 2012, right, close to it. And we've had, since well before I started working, we had a dispute with Mr. Hill. The dispute was concerning a dam on his property that predated the district, and he removed the pipe, replaced the pipe, took the dam down, replaced the dam. Before he did that, the district told him he needed permits. He disagreed. Anyway, with no permits, that broke off into a bunch of litigation. And again, before I got here, the district had acquired a money judgment against him for $300,000+ based upon fines and attorney's fees and all of that. So when I got here, we were in the process of foreclosing that money judgment, and that's when I took over. And so that process went through, and the district, because of the foreclosure of that money judgment, the district ended up owning the real property there on Country Club Road that the dam was actually on. Now, since that time, Mr. Hill has filed, pro se, has filed several lawsuits and contesting the district's ownership of that property. The most recent lawsuit was heard by Judge Jackson, and he not only found that Mr. Hill did not have a good claim to the property, but entered an injunction, and that injunction prohibited Mr. Hill from filing any additional pro se lawsuits contesting the district's ownership of the property. So he was not allowed to file new lawsuits. He was not allowed to file motions in existing lawsuits contesting the district's ownership of the property, and that was an injunction issued by the court. Mr. Hill appealed. It was affirmed on appeal. Now, recently, I think 2 weeks ago, Mr. Hill filed yet another motion in the original foreclosure action, asking that court to rehear it and to set aside the original foreclosure judgment. Now, there is an injunction issued that says he may not do that, and says where the court orders him not to do that. When a court issues an order and the person violates the order, what you do is you file a motion to have him held in contempt. And contempt is if the judge finds that he violates the order, then the judge does what the judge wishes to do at that point, which could be a fine, it could theoretically be jail time, it could be lots of stuff, but you don't get to just simply ignore court orders. You can go back and plead and say, Judge, please reconsider, but you don't get to just ignore them. And so my response to the motion, unless you all tell me otherwise, is going to be to file a motion in the original court that issued the injunction to issue what's called an order to show cause. The order to show cause is an order issued by the judge that says, Mr. Hill, show up on this day and tell me why you should not be held in contempt. And so I wanted, but obviously that's something I wanted you all to know before I go do that. And so that's why I'm telling you that. So unless you all tell me differently, that's what I intend to do in the next few days, is get that filed. the process would be, I would file the motion with the court that issued the injunction, file the motion with them, provide a order to show cause. The court, if the judge agrees, then the order to show cause is issued. That's served on Mr. Hill, like a deputy or a process server would go serve it on him, and it would give him a date. We'd have a hearing, and he would be able to tell the judge why he did not violate that court order if he thinks he didn't.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board? Like a good step or questions?
I think we should proceed. It's been litigated to the end of the earth, so to speak, and he's been given many, many opportunities to go beyond what I think is reasonable, so I think we should do it.
I don't think we'll have any choice.
What happens if we do not?
Well, theoretically now, if the judge finds out about it, the judge could take whatever action he wants. It's his order. It'd be very unlikely the judge would even find out about it and nothing else would happen. And we could, I suppose, so that's in the case that issued, remember, there are two separate cases. So there's a case that issued the injunction and there's the original foreclosure case. So if y'all told me not to do that, I would just file a response in the original foreclosure case and we'd re-argue it once again about who has rights to this property in that case.
Sounds like the option you're going in is probably the shortest option.
I'd rather not re-argue.
It is, and I would, and from my perspective, it's not about re-arguing this one case. It's re-arguing this one and then the next one in 6 months and the one in 6 months after that and all of that. You get to argue what you want to argue in front of courts, but now at some point we're done. And that's the part that Mr. Hill doesn't agree with.
Okay, I think the consensus is move forward with your proposal.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And that's all I had.
Let's see here. Good morning, Tim.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, those in attendance. For the business and community services portion of this morning's agenda, we have items number 9 through 19. Most of these items are either informational items or approved by way of consent, so thank you for those approvals. However, I will ask our Division Director of Resource Management and Projects, Mr. Leroy Marshall, come up to give you an update on an item that was briefly mentioned earlier, and he's also has 2 new employees to introduce. So.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. You can't see it on my face, but I am extremely happy. We got 2 new engineers that started with us yesterday. That is unheard of, but I am super happy about that. I'm going to start with Zunir Zadai. He graduated in December 2025 with his Master of Science in Environmental Engineering. You can go ahead and stand if you don't mind. From Florida International University, where he also achieved his Bachelor of Science in Environmental Engineering. During his graduate studies, he worked as a graduate research assistant supporting NOAA and EPA on funded research projects focused in stormwater management, water quality analysis, and environmental sampling. His hobbies are playing pool, soccer, and chess. He enjoys watching different sports and spending time with his friends and family. So that is Zanir.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Our other new hire is Emiliano Jimenez. Emiliano graduated in May 2025 from Florida International University with his Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. After graduating, he worked as a field engineer with Orion Marine Group in marine construction. While he was there, he gained valuable field experience contributing to construction operations and daily field reporting activities in a fast-paced environment. During his time, he made an effort to develop productive hobbies such as reading, journaling, and going to the gym. So, Mr. Emiliano.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Good. Glad to have you both.
Like we said, we are super excited to get both these guys in and get them going and get some of these permitting issues taken care of. So very excited. I wanted to spend a couple of seconds before we get into the item that was mentioned to talk about FEMA, our FEMA program. We discussed last month that we were starting to get reimbursements again. So we had our consultants move back into normal operations. As you may or may not have heard, DHS is back. We're starting to get, we went that whole time and we heard nothing from FEMA the whole time. So we're starting to get emails again, which is lovely. And so we are starting to hear back from them, starting to meet again. We actually have a meeting scheduled with them tomorrow morning, and we will get them caught up on what we've been doing and hopefully move forward. As we wanted to remind you that the next big flood risk review meeting will be the Upper and Lower Suwannee. We're talking 10 counties, which means we're going to have a lot of meetings. But if you remember from the last meeting where AECOM came and gave a brief summary, there was not a lot. There were some additions, but most of them were neutral or reductions. So we're hoping that that's going to go well, but that's going to be our next public meetings as soon as we get back up to speed with FEMA and get going. The next thing I wanted to give you guys an update on is the Trulieve property. We had one of our public speak on this right there at the end. I wanted to just give you guys a brief summary of what has happened and what we're doing. The Trulieve with the district had a pre-application meeting in April of 2019. And those pre-application meetings went on until July of 2019. But in July of 2019, the application was submitted. And early July 2nd, July 25th, that permit was issued. It was for approximately 25 acres of impervious, which is going to be these buildings right here and a couple of these buildings right here. So that was the original permit back in 2019. They came back in July of 2019. They came back in November of 2019 to modify the permit, and with that, they built a couple of buildings there and this massive building right here. That was for 29, almost 30 acres of impervious on the 85 acres. Then they came back in 2022. The pond that you see here was a lot smaller, and what we found is that it wasn't working as we had designed. So they came back in 2022 to expand the pond to ensure that it was working. Where they had an issue was with the perk rate, what the soils underneath were not performing. And so we had to go switch it from a retention pond to a detention pond. And that happened was permitted in 2023, May of 2023. In October of 2023 is when we got our first recorded complaint from the adjacent landowner. District staff went out, started looking at it, and we sent in March of 2024, we sent a notice of complaint to Trulieve, and then in April of 2024, we signed a compliance agreement with Trulieve, stating that they needed to modify their system again. What we found when we went out there in 2023 is that they had irrigation water that was going into the stormwater system. And so we said, you have to permit that. If you're going to do this, you have to permit that. And because the permit did not account for that amount of water. So they came back in May of 2024, got their permit in September of 2024, and it was to expand the pond and to modify the system such that the irrigation water is no longer discharging, but now being used again as irrigation on the rest of the property. So the irrigation water, based off of the application that was submitted in 2024, irrigation water should not be going off-site. The pond still has to perform according to district rules. In September of 2025, in November of 2025, we started hearing from the adjacent landowners to the north. We started hearing from him again. He reached out to DEP, reached out to us. We actually scheduled a meeting in February of 26 with the landowner and his attorney. Our staff met with them, went over their concerns, and that was February of this year. And then staff started, we were going out, doing multiple site inspections, but we started going back out again to try to see what was going on with Trulieve. According to them, they were doing some pumping. They were trying to pump the water in order to do the maintenance work that was going on that they needed to do while they were out there. So staff went out on March 2nd, April 10th, April 15th. I personally went out on the April visits, spoke with Trulieve representatives, and we started discussions on stopping the pumping, stopping the flow off-site, stopping the pumping off-site. They were able to pump, but they pumped on-site. We stopped the pumping that was going on off-site, and then we got the pond dry. So I went out there again on April 23rd. There was no water leaving the site on April 23rd. I have pictures of all of that. So we were able, one of the main complaints was that the water was continuously flowing off-site. By April 23rd, we had that stopped. Again, that was because, of course, there's no rain, right? It shouldn't be discharging if there's no rain. So we were able to get that stopped. Went back out on May 5th because we heard again through social media that the pond was flowing again. So we went back out on May 5th. I went back out on May 5th, met with Trulieve. The pond was discharging. The pond is designed to discharge after a rain event. This Trulieve had gotten a little over 2 inches, 2.3 inches of rain, and the pond was discharging. I think that happened on like a Friday or something like that. Over the weekend, I went out on like a Tuesday. The pond was almost dry. It wasn't completely dry, but it was discharging as it was supposed to. There was no pumped water in there. The water looked pretty clear. There was some issue with, in the videos, with duckweed. We talked about how to get rid of that duckweed. And I asked them to have that, they're gonna do some construction, some modification. I asked them to have that done by the 21st, which they said they would have that done. And so that's where we are. My expectations is that, well, we had rain, but if we had not had any rain, the pond would have went dry. They would have went out there and done that work. We did have some rain here this past weekend. I'm not sure exactly how much. I'll have to figure out and time it. As you guys know, if it's an inch, inch and a half, something small, The pond should be dry within a couple of days, 3 days, 72 hours after that rain event. So what I'll do is check to see how much rain they had, and if it was less than the water quality event, then I'll go back out after the 72 hours to see if it's still discharging. So like I discussed, the next step is that we will meet. We sent a notice of noncompliance in April of 2026 on the 17th. They responded. We gave them a time period to respond. They responded asking for some information. We provided them that information and are scheduling a meeting on the 19th to sit down and discuss all of the issues that was in that notice of noncompliance, and hopefully come to some resolution on the issues that are out there. So just wanted to give you guys an update on what's going on if you have any questions.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Leroy, is that, when you say discharge, are you talking about discharging through the bottom of the pond, or are you talking about discharging out through a weir or whatever, like we're seeing pictures of?
It's going out of a sand filter that's at the bottom of the pond. It's going through the sand filter and discharging off-site. This pond does not hold water like most typical ponds that you see over here, where you hold the first inch or inch and a half, and then it starts discharging. This pond is a little different. Now, it is the first inch or inch and a half based on the design. And I don't know if we can zoom in on this map on the pond a little bit. But if you can see to the, where are we? Right along here, there is a sediment pond. It's like a half-moon sediment pond. So the first inch or inch and a half, and all of that irrigation water goes into that pond. That's a moon shape. Over here, this water is what they irrigate the 85 acres with. So all of the irrigation water and the first flush of water that would normally be held in the retention pond goes over here and is then irrigated. The whole 85-acre site is irrigated with that water, such that the water that comes into here is the water that is above the water quality volume that you would normally have with a retention pond. So the water that comes into this bigger area is going through the sand filters, going out the back through a discharge structure that's right here, and then going off the site.
So the original design was to discharge water off onto this other property?
Madam Chair. The original design was not, well, it had a discharge, but it had, it was a retention pond, so that the first couple of inches stayed and perked like the normal ponds that you see, and then discharged. What we were finding after the first modification is that the pond was not working that way due to the clays that were under the ground. So we had to switch to a different set of, a different type of pond, and that's when we went to this detention pond with the irrigation system to take care of the pollutants in the first inch and a half.
Is there no solution? Is there a solution on the table that prevents that discharge, that water discharging on the other person's property, or is that going to be a?
At this point, there's not a solution that does not include discharge. This is an open basin. Water did discharge that way prior to the development of the site, and so if they want to discharge, they can. It has to meet the criteria, and so everything that we're doing at this point, because they do want to continue to discharge, is to have that water meet the standards that we have in place.
But the very general goal on ERP permitting is that the pre-development discharge is reasonably equivalent to the post-development discharge. So it's not, we're not generally permitting that would create new discharge
onto someone else's property, and that's not, my understanding, that's not what they're doing here. Correct. They're trying to do it in such a way that the post-development and the pre-development are reasonably equivalent. When you lay down a bunch of impervious surfaces, obviously there would be more runoff, but for stormwater ponds and everything, and that's how you slow it down to make that pre-development discharge and post-development discharge reasonably close. In this case, the post is less than 3.
Question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Leroy, apparently what little I know about this situation, the lady was concerned with the damage of the runoff, not necessarily just the water. So in our calculations, is there a way to hold back and discharge at a rate that would not cause damage to the neighboring property?
So when the pond is working correctly, the rate will be much lower than the pre. The criteria of the district is that the pond has to go dry within 30 days, which it may or may not have been doing. Also, the other thing to keep in mind is that they were pumping off-site. So when we were able to go out there in April, we were able to stop all that pumping. We were able to stop all of the discharge, and the pond began to function pretty much like it needs to. It's not 100% there. They're still working on it. If you remember, the permit that they had in 2014 was to modify it to fix those issues, and that's what they were doing into 2025, was modifying the system to make it work. So,
They're modifying, they added more pump. In their modifying, they added the irrigation water into it, which negated that, and then you came back and stopped that. Am I following the timeline?
So when they added the moon-shaped pond and started irrigating out of this pond to irrigate the rest of the irrigation water and the first inch of water, they still had a bunch of water in here and it had no percolation. So what they started doing was pumping the water out of here off-site. And when we went out there in April, that's when we said, you can't do that, or you shouldn't be doing that, or we don't want you to do that because of the adjacent landowner. So we had them find a way to pump the water that was in here other places so that they were not pumping off-site anymore. So one of the things we have to keep reminding everyone is that the pumping they were doing off-site was a maintenance issue and not the way the pond is designed to work. The pond is not designed to pump water off-site. That is not what it's designed to do. That's what was happening while they were maintaining the pond. When we received the complaints that they were pumping water, we went out there and we stopped that from happening.
Your belief is that we've rectified this situation?
We're meeting on the 19th to try to get to an end. I would say at this moment, it's not, we haven't completed our investigation. We haven't completed anything. We've just had back and forth communication with TruLeave. We've asked them to do certain things to stop the flow, to, stop any other things that we considered or we felt needed to be changed. They have done those couple of things and are doing them. Like I say, we're going to meet on the 19th to work through all of the complaints and the concerns and try to come to a resolution. But we have not come to a resolution at this point.
Okay. Can you give us just a brief picture of the residents' complaint? Is it flooding part of their property? Is it just the destruction of the property where it comes in? What's the scope of their complaint?
They had about 4 complaints. Continuous flow was one. Erosion on their site was one. The water quality was one of their issues.
Not like the normal stream flow.
Let me make sure I understand your question.
Well, they had a natural stream flow through there.
Right.
So the quality of the water was not what it used to be.
That was their concern, that the quality of water that was coming out was not what it used to be or what it should be.
So they understand water's coming, it always has. So what their scope would be, the amount per minute to not damage their property,
That's one of their concerns.
quality of the water that's coming.
Yes, sir. It was the consistent flow. It was the rate of the flow, water quality of the flow. And then that it was causing flooding and all of this. So they had a list of issues. All of those issues were communicated in the notice of noncompliance that was sent. Truly responded, and our next step in the compliance process is to sit down with them and try to resolve these issues and then come to a compliance agreement and then work on a modification. I spoke to the engineer for True Leave. They are already working on the modification. So I do expect us to come to a resolution here pretty quickly, but we will see on the 19th when we are able to meet.
Just ask that you keep us posted on it, but it sounds like they're being cooperative.
So far, from definitely since I've been coming out there since April, I haven't run into anything. I do want to remind the board, we do have our e-permitting portal. We have an item open for this portal, and we update that item as much as we can. I want to say daily, but it's not daily, but it's as close to daily as we can get it. And so every action that we're doing, everything that we're doing is in that item, and it is viewable online by anybody who wants to see what's happening.
Questions? Sounds good. Sounds like they're being responsive, which is great.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a good day. I learned something. I didn't know we could do that.
I'm going to pause for a moment. I think I have some board members that have some meetings to go to. Is that correct?
I've got to go.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll get back on track here. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. The Division of Outreach and Operations, we have 8 items for your consideration this morning. Items number 20, 21, and 24 are for informational purposes. I will note that as y'all are looking at the land management report, that some of the items that are on there, specifically prescribed fire, we have had to switch focus given the drought conditions and have not been burning, as you might imagine. We are doing more mowing and roller chopping, more mechanical treatments, but you will likely see a shift in some of those land management duties in the coming months, in light of the rain that we're very, very grateful for, but we'll continue to pursue mechanical options unless there's, especially as we enter the summer months. Items number 22 and 23 I'll be presenting, and then items number 25, 26, and 27 will be presented by Lorna Radcliffe, our land management chief. I'll also add that Lorna will be giving y'all an update on the South Canal fire that we had in a portion of our Mallory Swamp Track in Lafayette County that y'all received updates on. She has some good news for you today. And I would just like to publicly thank Lorna for her leadership over that incident. She worked outside of some of her planned leave and had coverage by the district over the weekend by one of her staff to make sure that the district's resources were adequately protected and that we were coordinating well with the Florida Forest Service and Four Rivers that our neighbors and working our contractors. So she did a phenomenal job along with Roger Gill, who worked over the weekend, and then our local div soup, Bill McKinstry. But big shout out to Lorna. Excited for y'all to see and hear the intel that she has relative to that incident, which this rain, it seems, is helping. The first item that I have for your consideration today is on OPS page 7. This is the approval of Resolution 2026-05 for the sale of declared surplus lots 37 and 38 in Forest Woodlands to Mr. Alan Drescher, and these are located in Gilchrist County. The Forest Woodlands lots, which are shown here on this map in white, which are right here in white, were purchased in 1996 using Save Our Rivers funds for just shy of $30,000. These lots, as you can see, are isolated from other district property and are small, and they are not included as part of the district's land management plan. In March of 2000, and let me go back, these were actually surplus by the board in 2019, so they have been sitting on our surplus list for almost 7 years now. In March of 2026, Mr. Drescher, who is an adjacent landowner, he doesn't live. He owns property in a U-shape around these lots. So he owns lots around our 37 and 38. He offered $44,000 for the parcels, both parcels. A market analysis was done to determine if this offer was reasonable. And given that Lot 38 will be sold with full deed restrictions due to the fact that it's primarily a wetland, and then Lot 37 would be sold allowing for a structure but advanced septic, we thought that this offer was reasonable. However, pursuant to Florida statutes, the purchase agreement stipulates that the property must be sold for appraised value or the offer price, whichever is greater. The statute stipulates that we can't sell for less than appraised value. Our contract stipulates that we'll sell for the offer price or appraised value, whichever is greater. On April 8th, Mr. Drescher executed a contract for sale and submitted a 10% bid guarantee subject to board approval. Staff have noticed the sale on its district website and the local newspaper on the dates listed below. Further, the sale meets the criteria for the surplus directive evaluation criteria shown in the summary maps and the triage. Again, this was previously surplus, but just in an effort to cross our T's and dot our I's, we ran this through the surplus triage again and found that it met our criteria and actually the board's criteria for surplus. And with that, staff requests approval of Resolution 2026-05 for the sale of Forest Woodlands lots 37 and 38 to Mr. Alan Drescher in Gilchrist County.
Is there a motion?
Make that motion, Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board. The next item I have for your consideration today is on OPS page 13. This request is to authorize the Executive Director to enter into memorandums of agreement with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services as part of the Rural and Family Lands Partnership Program for the less-than-fee partnership acquisitions of Bascom Southern and Dixie County and the Williams Family Investment Projects in Levy County. And just as a reminder, I'm going to talk through this memo to hopefully jog our memory and take us back in time. So back in September of 2025, you, the board, approved a list of land acquisition projects for staff to pursue. On that list, we had Bascom Southern, where the district had negotiated with the landowner, again, subject to board approval, to offer about 0.05% of the acquisition price. If you remember, this is a 52,000 acre acquisition for a conservation easement. It appraised at $1,000 an acre. The district does not have $52 million to spend on a conservation easement, so we offered approximately 0.05 partnership funding for this. Since that time, this project, along with the Williams Family Project, which is in Levy County, it's Long Pond, you can see it here, thank you, Tyler. It has been on our acquisition list for some time, and the board ranks it. We have now gotten to this project, and when we reached out to the landowner's agent, found that they are also part of the Rural and Family Lands Program and asked for partnership funding. They had originally come to the district for the district to buy this as a project on our own for a conservation easement. And certainly, we feel that it is most advantageous to the taxpayer to partner with FDACS on this project if the board so agrees. So to partner with FDACS, and this project would be for 10% or $350,000, whichever is less. That would be the amount. To partner with FDACS, we have sent in commitment letters for these projects, but FDACS requires us to sign formal memorandums of agreement. Those agreements list the prices that are listed here in the memorandum and that the board approves, and allows us to exit the memorandum of agreement at any time if budget constraints occur. So we are not bound to move forward with the project if we have a budgetary constraint that is unforeseen. However, these projects can be funded with current funds should the board approve them today. These would be signed by the executive director, and the projects would be based off of the terms negotiated between the landowner, FDACS, and the district. So we would, we've already negotiated the Williams family conservation easement terms because it's been in our hopper for so long. And then the Bascom Southern would be subject to the terms that y'all approved back in 2025, which it is largely a silvicultural operation where they hunt and do passive recreation. Like I mentioned, the district reserves the right to terminate the memorandums of agreement at any time if the agreements do not align with the district's budget, policies, or conservation standards. You should have a letter, letter/email from the National Defenders of Wildlife that they had sent in earlier this week, mentioning their support for these projects. I think you've heard from them on several other land projects in the past, but this is one that they desired to express their support for. With that, I will take any questions.
Madam Chair? Caitlin, what's the difference if, under this partnership agreement with FDACS, what's the difference in this and then if we actually had the funding and decided to purchase the easement ourselves?
Madam Chair, we share co-title with FDACS. Well, you can do these partnership agreements a variety of ways with FDACS. We will be seeking co-title with FDACS, and they would handle all of the monitoring. So when we look at conservation in the region as a whole, these partnership projects, it's my firm belief that they're a win-win for the taxpayer because you can leverage multiple agency dollars. And in these cases, these projects support our mission for natural systems restoration, water supply protection and sustainability, water quality improvements, and then not so much a flood protection on these, but certainly those other three core mission areas. There's some projects that FDACS funds that are not synonymous with what our district goals are. They're very in line with what FDACS does, and those would be ones that we would move them to other funding sources, but these two specifically we feel are in great alignment with the district's core mission areas.
Totally agree.
Absolutely. Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
All right, Madam Chair, that concludes my items. Lorna Radcliffe will come up now to present her 3 items, and then we have a Lands Committee this
Okay,
afternoon.
thank you.
Morning, Madam Chair, board members. I have 3 items for you today, as Caitlin mentioned. The first item is number 25. On January 24th, 2006, the district and the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Florida Forest Service, known as the department, entered into an agreement for the district-owned lands referred as Twin Rivers State Forest. The agreement is a 20-year term that allows for an additional 20-year extension. The agreement was extended for an additional 20 years in January of 2026 and will expire in January of 2046. District staff are actively reviewing agreements for outdated language, services, and contract terms. Based upon the review of the agreement 0405-131, with the department, staff drafted a new agreement consistent with the current services and contract terms. The contract has been amended to include the Withlacoochee Quail Farm Tract and the Withlacoochee Hills Tract under the management of the Florida Forest Service as part of the Twin Rivers State Forest. Additionally, the process for conducting timber sales has been updated, with the district issuing the bid, the contract, and collecting the revenue, and the Florida Forest Service monitoring the sales. The proposed changes are essential to resolve inconsistencies between the original contract and our present-day workflows. Substantial edits are complete, and the agreement is pending legal review. Upon approval by the district, the agreements will be routed for final signatures. So the recommendation is to authorize the executive director to enter into a cooperative agreement with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Florida Forest Service, for the management of district lands referred to as Twin Rivers State Forest.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you. The next item is number 26 on your agenda. On April 22nd, 1999, the district and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission entered into a memorandum of understanding for cooperative management of district-owned lands. District staff are actively reviewing agreements for outdated language, services, and contract terms. Based upon the review of the agreement from 9899-098 with FWC, staff drafted a new agreement consistent with the current services and contract terms. The new agreement removes services and terms that are obsolete. Terms that were removed include commission staff assisting with the implementation of the land management plans and cooperatively creating annual operating plans. Agreement language restricting the fiscal reimbursement amount to $60,000 for FWC salaries and expenses was removed, since it is a 20-year contract and mutually it is approved in each year in writing. District staff will continue to review agreements with cooperators to ensure accuracy. Substantial edits are complete, and the edit is pending legal review. Upon approval by the district, the agreements will be routed for final signatures. The recommendation is to authorize the executive director to enter into a cooperative agreement with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission to provide enforcement services on our district-owned lands.
Any questions from the board?
Madam Chair, Lauren, this is not exactly relevant to what your request is, but I'm curious, on an annual basis, you renegotiate the fees that we will pay FWC for leasing, so to speak, our district lands?
Madam Chair?
That includes hunting and all that stuff?
Yes, sir. So based upon budget, we basically agree as far as the budget amount and the hours of service, and the executive director sends a letter to their executive director.
So the board approved recently to increase additional tracts that would be eligible or open to hunting. And I know that's under consideration right now. I think there's some that's scheduled to go in this year and then some next year. Is that something that's negotiated on an annual basis with you, Hugh, that says how much we have to reimburse FWC for that? Or is that considered part of their, part of just what they do?
Madam Chair?
I'm not, that's what I'm trying to.
So that is a separate agreement. There's a separate agreement as far as the wildlife management areas and the work that is cooperatively done for those. This agreement is for them to be identified as our lead law enforcement agency and for enhanced patrol hours.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could add to that, Lauren, correct me on this if I'm wrong, but the separate agreement that she talks about, that's not a fixed amount. It is a discussed amount, a negotiated amount, because you look at cost of living, the amount of acres that you've alluded to, that we'll be adding in. So that certainly will need to be adjusted some.
So just as a matter of clarification for me, is it, if FWC is policing a tract of land that we have opened to hunting, is it full-fledged management area tract at that point, meaning the person who wants to use the property rather than an SUA, do they actually have to have a permit from FWC to hunt on that property?
Madam Chair? Yeah. So during hunting season dates, they would have to have a WMA permit to enter.
Okay. So all properties that FWC takes over to manage from a hunting standpoint is considered a WMA then,
Yes, sir.
for hunting permit? Okay. That's my question. I'm sorry to get off on a sidetrack there, but I thought while you were at the podium, I'd get my question answered. Madam Chair, I make a motion, we approve or authorize the executive director to enter into that agreement.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Okay, and the third item is number 27. In September of 2023, the district approved a task work assignment with Utah Incorporated for the purposes of designing, engineering, and permitting for the planned repairs to the boat ramp and seawall located at the Steinhatchee Falls Park. Permitting by the United States Army Corps of Engineers and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection have been received. The engineer finalized plan designs based on those permit requirements. Recent hurricanes in the area have perpetuated the existing issues and have increased degradation to the site. The existing facilities have reached the end of their service life and are inadequate for the intended purposes. The Steinhatchee Falls Park Boat Ramp is the only concrete boat landing north of the town of Steinhatchee that provides access to remote sections of the Steinhatchee River. The Florida Boating Improvement Program grant application window opened February of 2026. The Office of Land Management would like to apply for grant funds to improve the Steinhatchee Falls Park Boat Ramp and seawall through this program overseen by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. The planned improvements promote motorized boat access, improve boater safety through improved access, and offer bank stabilization to the recreation site as well as reducing sediment to the Steinhatchee River. At this time, the total funding request based upon our engineered plan is $408,000. The recommendation is to approve Resolution 2026-06, authorizing the executive director to apply for grant funds through the Florida Boating Improvement Program for the Steinhatchee Falls Park improvements.
Any questions from the board?
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
And the last thing that I have for you is an update on the South Canal fire. So in Mallory, I'm going to show you a quick map. In Mallory Swamp, there's find the pointer here. This portion right here that you see is about 32 acres, along with this small portion here is district-owned lands. The neighboring land is Four Rivers. It's 2,200 acres in size, and it's 59% contained at this time. The dark black line that you see along this edge and along this edge here is where they consider it contained, and they're still working on this other section basically to get it burned out up to that line to be able to consider that contained. So they are still actively working. They have 138 personnel that was assigned to the fire, with 42 tractor plow units and 4 brush trucks. The district supplied contracted resources that we have, which is a tractor plow unit, a brush truck, and now a grader. And so we're working with the Florida Forest Service on district lands to protect that area. The rain that we received last night and today helped out, and so they are looking at demobbing some of their crews, but they still are actively reinforcing the established fire lines and ensuring that everything is mopped up and completely cooled down. I'd like to commend the Florida Forest Service and the Perry District in particular that worked this fire. They transitioned to the Florida Team 2, And their incident command team came in and coordinated with us and adjacent landowners and did an excellent job on protecting our property and any further damage. So with that, I will take any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Oh, and this was from Thursday of last week, and this is the extent they went to protect our timber, and that's
That was
so
58,000.
that, yeah, that's basically an air tanker dropping retardant to make sure that line that you're seeing. So there's actually a line along here. There's a road, and they were actually putting that there and pushing, having bulldozers push to that red line to make sure the fire didn't get any further past that. So, any questions?
Madam Chair, Lorna, can you point out, that's kind of the area that you pointed to earlier, my understanding is kind of the southwest corner of our Mallory tract, just to show them, if you can show them where the remainder of our Mallory tract, or at least
Sure.
proximity relative to what the burn area is.
So on the south end, our property line comes down and goes around. Sorry, I'm not good with this pointer. Goes around to here and then comes out. And we actually, one of the big things they were helping us with was the fact that this is a timber sale that has been sold and we are trying to get crews out to, but we're having to wait till the fire has subsided, so.
We want to thank you for your extra help on keeping up with the fire and helping get that under control.
The Florida Forest Service did a great job, so.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Dr. Brown.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I did not have any items to bring before you today. I just wanted to give you a brief update. You saw the hydrologic conditions report, and we can see the conditions outside today. At this point, we're holding with our modified Phase 2 water shortage, so there are some regulatory limits additional in place right now in the district, mostly focusing on less efficient and discretionary water uses, again, just trying to defer those until such time as the conditions improve. We do still have a substantial deficit, as do our neighbors, and so we continue to try to work to be mindful of water use, but there's nothing that we're recommending in terms of extending that at this point in time. We'll continue to monitor, and if there are changes, we would bring them to you for review at the June board. And then at this point, we are anticipating workshopping the rules that will go into effect on July 1st relative to the Lower Santa Fe in June, just to clarify what those are, because those rules we're anticipating will go into effect on July 1st. So that'll be a workshop at the next meeting.
Any questions for Dr. Brown? Thank you.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair and board members. I'll be brief with my comments. I know we do have a lands committee scheduled, and with Mr. Schwab out of town, thank you, Madam Chair, for offering to chair that committee meeting in his absence. There was a successful CARES event last week. Thank you. We had some board members that were there. I think we recognized there was somewhere in the neighborhood of around 10 recipients recognized from across the district. It was quite well attended. It actually became a brief shower prior to the CARES event, and then the rain held off thereafter, so it worked out real well. Tyler is up in Tallahassee. Today starts the beginning of special session 2026E. The primary consideration will be budget, and they do envision to have an approved budget by I think it's the first week of June that they're looking at with it. So Tyler will keep us informed on that. Similarly, to what has already been expressed, I want to express my appreciation to the Florida Forest Service, our cooperators with Four Rivers and their team, and then our contractors for being able to get out. And most certainly to our staff under Lorna's leadership, overseeing the operation relative to the fire that we've had there at Mallory and containing that. We're very blessed. So wonderful, it's already been stated about the rain. I'm hoping that we are reaching a turning point with some of that, although, and I've had this conversation, we get rain, and people wonder about the drought being over. With it, no, it's not over yet. It'll take considerable more rain to get us to that point. And additionally, the rains that we have been getting, for the most part, provide very little recharge for our aquifer at this point in time because of plant uptake, irrigation underway, and water use in general with that. So that's still something that we're going to continue to watch relative to our groundwater conditions. And thanks to Robbie for presenting that information earlier with that. That's all I've got, Madam Chair, at this time. I'll be happy to take any questions, and we do have the Lands Committee.
Any questions for Hugh?
Thank you all for the
Glad we
birthday
don't have
wishes.
Richard here. I'm sure he would have questions for you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. All right, is there a motion to, or any other comments from the board?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. And a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Do y'all need a break before we go right on in? Yes? Okay. We'll have a 10-minute break and then come right back and do our Lands Committee.
Yep.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Swanee River Water Management District Lands Committee. It's May 12th, 2026. We'll call this meeting to order. Do we need a roll call?
Yes, please.
All righty.
Mr. Keith?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Sessions?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Wheeler?
Here.
Ms. Johns?
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the meeting to public comment. I don't have any cards up here, so we'll close public comment and go into discussion. And item number 3, which is the Governing Board Directive number 260004.
Yes, ma'am. The first item we have for you today is on on Lands Committee, page 2. This is the approval of Governing Board Directive 26-004, Conservation Easement Amendment Guidelines. In July of 2020, the board approved Governing Board Directive 20-0005, which outlined practices and board direction regarding how to handle requests for conservation easement amendments in accordance with Florida statutes and district administrative rules. This revised directive recommends primarily administrative changes consisting of prioritizing the terms and conditions information in Section 4 and deleting repetitive versions of that in Section 5. So to put this simply, there were terms and conditions that we were, as staff, were directed to consider in Section 4, and then they were repeated over and over and over again in Section 5. All we did was make sure that they were solidified in Section 4 and then repeated the redundant information in Section 5. We also are moving section definitions from Section 3 to Section 5 to better explain the amendment types and make it easier for staff to follow this. So again, this is a clerical change or an administrative change. There's no content changing on item numbers 1 or 2. Specifically on 2, we just took, if we said that amendment was mutually beneficial, we moved that definition down to Section 5 so we could easily turn to that and say, okay, if it's this, then if it's X, then Y is what we do. And lastly, we organize the procedural information for improved staff understanding. Again, not a deletion, just moving that information around. The one substantive change is included, which removes the requirement for amendments to be considered by the Lands Committee and instead goes straight to the Governing Board. Now, this has been allowed in the directive. Should the Lands Committee Chair approve it. And the last 3 amendments that we've had, we've contacted the Lands Committee Chair, requested the amendments go directly to the Governing Board. We're encouraged by Mr. Schwab to identify efficiencies that would make this more constructive for time for not only staff, but for the landowner as well. And this is one of those efficiencies that we're recommending, given that it has improved customer service and it has made for a seamless working with the board and with the landowner. Time is sometimes a consideration for some of these amendments where you'll have someone needing to, the last one that y'all reviewed was on the Deep Creek CE, where it was just a wetlands map update, and that was important because they were actively trying to harvest timber and then found that they couldn't harvest where they needed to harvest and were allowed to harvest in areas we didn't want them to harvest. And so getting that before the board in a timely manner was useful so that we didn't cause harm to the resource based on a clerical error in a map. So that is the one substantive edit. Approval of this directive will supersede Governing Board Directive 20-005 along with all former versions of similar content and nature, should the board approve it. A red line and a clean copy are attached for your consideration. With that, staff recommend that the Lands Committee approve Governing Board Directive 26-0004 for Conservation Easement Amendment Guidelines.
Any questions on this item? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Lands Committee. The next item for your consideration is on Lands Committee, page 11. Now, before I get into this and into the next item, I just wanted to give us a brief update of how we got to where we are today. So when we have brought surplus items to you in the past, we have had conversations as far back as probably almost a year, promising that we were evaluating district lands for any properties that were not consistent with the district's core mission areas and land management plan. And these were largely river lots. And at that time, the board, you, the Lands Committee, and then later the board directed us to say, go forth, find those properties, identify them, and bring them back to us. So we have brought them along and pieces of folks that have been interested in them, but this is what we would call our first big batch. We plan to do these on a county-by-county level, and we are working in different regions. And so we are in the Northeast region right now. We actually already evaluated the Northwest region and didn't find any properties that met this criteria that we're looking at for small residential lots. So that is how we ended up to where we are today. So you will see more of these on a county-by-county basis. So what we are looking at here is the declaration of surplus of small lots in Lafayette County. We have 46 lots across 79.74 acres in total. The Lafayette County small lots were acquired in various transactions from 1995 to 1998 using Save Our Rivers funds. These parcels, as you can see here on this map, they're clustered here on this map, are isolated from other district lands and are not part of the district's land management activities. Many of them are in residential areas that are highly developed. The parcels being recommended for surplus are listed in Table 1 of your materials. We went through each lot on a lot-by-lot basis with our water resource staff, our regulatory staff, our project staff, looked at base flood elevation, looked at LIDAR, and are making recommendations for the terms based on a lot-by-lot evaluation. Some of the lots are being recommended for development, which would be a residential structure. All the lots are requiring advanced septic if there is a structure being recommended, and some of them, due to the nature of wetlands or other sloughs, are being requested for surplus with no development, similar to some of the other properties that you've seen. Site visits were performed on April 8th. And based on the date of the acquisition, a 2/3 vote is required by the governing board to surplus these parcels in accordance with 373-089 as listed. The declared surplus designation of the parcels is subject to governing board approval. We would seek adjacency sales where appropriate through these, just because that's been the most fruitful avenue for moving these properties. However, any property not sold through a surplus sale or where we have multiple interests, we would sell in to the general public. A map of the properties is attached. Quite frankly, there is a slew of maps in there that you can take your time to review. They are organized by subdivision or by area. If you have a question, we can go to a specific one, but for the purposes of today's declaration, you can see these up here on your context map clustered in purple. With that, I will take any questions you have.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Due to the nature, due to the volume of lots that we may have available, assuming the board approves them for surplus, does it ever make sense to involve our real estate professional to market these lots to sell them, or do we get enough response without having to do that we can move them, get rid of them?
Madam Chair? Yes. So the district has used real estate services in the past. Statutorily, we're allowed to use real estate services. We have to go to bid for those. And just in full transparency, we have started working on a packet for real estate broker services, and we're working with the Southwest Florida Water Management District, who moves lots like this but to the tune where we have how many here? 40? They have 1,500. And so we're trying to glean some wisdom from them. They are actually going out to bid right now and I think they're finalizing their bid packet and then going out to bid. And our anticipation was to piggyback or at least utilize their solicitation packet and as a basis for ours. So we had one and then they've just updated it. So we're waiting on their updated version. But I expect absent board direction or executive director direction, I expect to be bringing back real estate services for approval in the coming months, given for the reasons you just mentioned. I think it would significantly help us move these, and it helped in the past. I've had several agents who worked with the district in the past reapproach us and ask me when we are going to put the bid out for real estate services.
Okay, good.
Any other questions?
Motion we approve.
Okay, we have a motion for approval.
Second.
And a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item for your consideration is on Lands Committee, page 84. This is the declaration of small river lots in Hamilton County. We're looking at 15 lots across 17 acres in this case. These lots were acquired through various transactions between 1998 and 2000, again using Save Our Rivers funds for a total of $98,000. These parcels are showcased on the map you see here. They are clustered again by subdivision. They are largely in residential areas and surrounded by development, and they are not currently being managed as part of the district's land management plan, giving their small footprint and their isolated nature. The lots that are being requested for surplus to the Lands Committee are on Table 1 of your materials, which is on the next page. Same with Lafayette County. We evaluated these on a lot-by-lot basis with our regulatory team, our water resources team, our projects team, and are making recommendations based off of the specific nature of that parcel. I will note that Swanee River Farms, Lot 10, we are recommending not so much for surplus, but we are requesting conveyance to the U.S. Forest Service because that lot is sandwiched between two lots owned by the feds and is part of the National Scenic Trail. So we would like to convey it to the feds. That's the only lot we own in that area. And lastly, at the bottom, you'll see there the Withlacoochee ramp, lot number 40, is right next to a public boat ramp that is owned by Hamilton County. We would like to convey that to Hamilton County for parking as it is currently being used as such already. And it would just be a natural transition to allow them to further their activities in that area. The declared surplus designation, all of these sites were visited on the same day as the Lafayette sites on April 8th. Based off the date of the acquisition, a 2/3 vote is required by the board, subject to Florida statute. And so after Lands Committee, this will go to the full board. The declared surplus designation of the parcels is subject to board approval. And again, we would seek adjacency sales where appropriate here or sell to the general public, whichever makes the most sense. And a map of all of these lots in your normal triage fashion that we prepare is also included. I can flip to those if you have specific questions. Otherwise, staff requests the declaration of small surplus lots in Hamilton County by the Lands Committee.
Madam Chair. Caitlin, just for my clarification, when we decide whether they're going to be enhanced septic or they're going to be no builds, are we looking at zones, floodplains, floodways, percentages? Or do we have a criteria that uniform?
Madam Chair. Yes, sir, we do. So we have a surplus criteria evaluation directive, which is a mouthful. And you, the board, established that for us. It's been in place for many years, and we have updated it along and along, but those surplus evaluation criteria have largely not changed. And so when we bring a property before the Lands Committee and then ultimately the board for surplus, we run it through what we call that triage or that evaluation criteria and make sure that it is suitable for surplus. What you'll see is a lot of these properties are within the floodplain and in some areas even the floodway. But because they're in residential areas that may have a high bluff or maybe are completely developed all the way around and they're not actively being managed, we would still bring those before the board for consideration. Because I think the original, I don't want to speculate what staff were doing when we purchased these 20 plus, almost 30 years ago. But it appears that the intent was to buy these lots and then buy them in aggregate and create a tract out of it over time. And just given the rate of residential development and people's, some willingness to sell, others not willingness to sell, that in areas where it did materialize, obviously we're keeping those. In areas where it hasn't and it doesn't, it's not an option because there's houses, we are bringing those before the board. So yes, there's an evaluation criteria. It's included in your packet. We bring that before the board. We run it through. The maps also list it. And then in addition to that criteria, we do a base flood elevation evaluation with regulatory to make sure that it's something that that they wouldn't likely receive a compliance call on in the future.
Yeah, I get the part about what gets it to the surplus. Well, my part is, once we get it to the surplus and we decide which lot we're gonna let them build on with enhanced septic and which lot we're just strictly conservation, we're not gonna let them build on, do we have a standard there that depicts between the two lots?
Madam Chair. Yes, sir. So that's done at the staff level and is represented in that table, which is what you're referencing and what you're looking at. That we do with our regulatory staff. So once it gets that initial screening from the group, then we look at it and say, okay, what's a reasonable term for this? If it has I'll give you an example. If it's a tract that has a high area on the riverside, but you would have to cross through a slough to get to it, that's not something that's eligible for development because you would impact wetlands to get to it. If it's got a high bluff on the roadside where it's accessible, and then it's maintained and it doesn't have any sloughs or holes or obvious sinkholes on the site, then that's something that we would say, hey, a structure here might be appropriate. Advanced septic's required across the board. And so really, you're looking at it at a very granular lot by lot level, and we're relying on our regulatory staff's expertise and other staff scientific expertise to make those recommendations for us.
And I would assume we would be on the stricter side of that.
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That's all. I'm good. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye, and those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. I've got one question. When we sell these lots, I know that we get money from different pots, and I just wondered where, once we sell these, the money coming in, does it go into like our general lands pot, or I know it's probably not Florida Forever, or just want to make sure that it gets in the right pot when it comes in?
Yes, ma'am. So there are rules in how monies from these surplus properties are allocated. Properties that were purchased with Florida Forever funds have to be either reinvested in acquisition funds within 2 years, or they have to be returned for the state. So unless it's just a property that we are exchanging, or we don't really look at those properties because you have a time cap on when you have to spend it, and that's a lot of pressure when you're trying to buy real estate. Properties that were purchased with what's called P2000 anything that is surplus that was purchased with P2000 has to go back to the state no matter what, and that's just what it is. So, and again, those were typically large tracts of property that we purchased back in the 80s and the 90s, and so they weren't part of this small lot roundup is what people called it at the time. So those are the two restricted funds. You also have just general water lands management trust fund dollars that if they're surplus, we reinvest back in acquisition. It has to go back in acquisition. And then Save Our Rivers funds, a similar program. Anything that's surplus that was purchased with Save Our Rivers goes back into the land acquisition fund. So when you're looking at the table that we provide and we list the funding source and we list the TransLink number that may not mean a whole lot to y'all, that's an administrative tool for us to go back and double check and make sure, because when we're listing them and bringing these before the committee and talking to finance, we're saying, okay, we've double-checked the funding source, we've double-checked the original acquisition to make sure that this is suitable for surplus, should the board choose to consider it. So the short answer is yes, we have restrictions. Yes, we are working with finance to make sure they're going back into acquisition. And quite frankly, we need it because the state hasn't funded water management land acquisition dollars in quite some time. They're doing a great job handling that at the state level, but the districts are left to fund those programs themselves. And so we're trying to be as wise stewards of taxpayer dollars.
Sounds great. Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions? Okay, let's see here. So we've got we've had our motion and voted, and I guess that is our last item.
Yes, ma'am. And like I mentioned, you'll be seeing more of these. So we'll have a lands committee for sure in the late summer to approve any acquisition projects that the board may consider. But we may have another one in the July or August months to bring additional lots similar to this manner. So if you have questions or want to see anything different, we've attempted to make this as comprehensive as possible, despite how many papers Robin's having to manage with the lands committee items. But again, we want to be thorough and show that we did a full analysis of these and make sure that we've got the public trust in mind when we're bringing these before the lands committee and board. With that, I have nothing else.
I know it was a lot of papers, but it was very well done. Thank you. It's easy to follow.
And actually, I'm sorry, I do have one more. As soon as I stepped away, I remembered. Earlier, we were talking about, I think Mr. Thompson asked about cooperative agreements with land management and the WMAs with FWC. Just one clarification on that. What Lorna brought to you today was for the enhanced patrol. So obviously FWC can patrol where FWC can patrol statutorily and by their own rules, right? They have jurisdiction that's defined outside of water management. What they give to us is an additional enhanced patrol, and then we have an agreement that says, we want you to look at these things and look for these things and do these types of activities on our lands. It's subject to our rules too. So that was the agreement she was bringing today. The agreement for the WMAs that Mr. Thompson asked about is separate, but it is not, we don't fund that agreement. That is all handled under FWC's budget. So when FWC brings a WMA into their program, they fund that out of their own budget. So if we bring an additional 15,000 acres or so into the program, then they have to figure out how to pay for that, which is part of that discussion that we have with them. We bring them properties on an annual basis. I will say that the properties that we've brought this last time that the board considered and approved, and we've had many conversations with many of you on this board about those, is the comment we got back from them is, wow, we haven't had this much property at one time come into our program, and we're really excited about it. We're just trying to figure out how are we going to manage it, because they have to manage it. They post, they patrol, they staff. And they oversee the hunting guidelines associated with it. So I just wanted to make that slight clarification that that's not additional funds that this board has to provide. That's handled up in Tallahassee with FWC.
Perfect. Any other questions? Good information. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see. Any other announcements? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you.